financial markets, cryptocurrency, gold and silver, world news.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills. That actually increases the money supply.
Financial Turmoil Explained.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Monday, the 13th of June, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. The wheels are flying off. It's spinning out of control, the system, right now. We're in the deflationary spike event. And, you know, I'm going to tell you guys, it wants to spin off in two different directions. One's deflation, one's inflation. What's going to make the difference, which direction it spins off in, is going to be the money printer. Ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. And anyway, listen, guys, this is quite a situation that's happening right now. It's going to put there's so much pressure in the financial system. It's unbelievable, and that strain's starting to come out in many different ways. It's all things that I've predicted in the past. I predicted that I think it's going to go off into inflation because I think they're going to react to this at a certain point. When are they going to react? That's the big $64,000 question. So, you know, you guys, you want to predict when they're going to turn and when the Fed is going to put the brakes on all of this and start the money printers again? Well, I've often said on my shows that if they let it drop 40%, and right now I think we're around 16.5% down, if they let it drop 40%, everything's going to freeze in the system. And that's going to be a real panic, and they're definitely going to have to come in and they're going to have to fix it because the whole financial system will be completely frozen. What does that mean, and what does it look like if the financial system freezes and locks up? Like Jim Rickards says, Ice 9. What does that look like? Well, nothing's going to work. Every company, almost in America, you know, I'm going to almost say inclusively every company, trucking firms, power companies, they all have to make payroll, and they're all connected to a bank. Telecommunications companies like your internet, the companies that provide it, they're all connected to a bank. Trucking firms that bring your food to the grocery store, all connected to a bank. And what a freeze basically is none of the banks are able to make any transactions because it's just like the part in the Bible, you know, it talked about the money changers out in front of the temple. They knocked all their tables over. All their coins went rolling all around on the ground. At that point, they didn't know who owned what because all their coins were all over the floor, all over the ground. And they couldn't make transactions or do any business then at that point because they didn't know who owned what then at that point. They were like, I don't know, these are my coins or these are your coins, and it was just confusion. That can happen within the financial system if too much deleveraging happens too fast. And that's what will happen at around 40% down in the markets overall. And we're about 16.5%, I think it is, down right now. And we're dropping fast. You know, if they let it go that far, if the Fed lets it go down to 40%, you get a freeze. And so how do you unlock it? You have to unlock it with money. Yeah, and you have to stop everything. You have to basically stop everything, shut all the banking system down while we sort this out. And when we re-leverage the people who have deleveraged and who have went bankrupt. And get the big players who went bankrupt, make them whole again, right? Now we can unlock the system again and let the money start to flow. It'd be basically about the same ideas as all them sorting their coins and figuring out who owns what coins and then starting business again. And that's what would happen with the financial system, is they would have to sort everything out, and it might take a week or 2 weeks or a month, but it'd be a big panic because while everything's shut down, there's no transactions being made within the system. The system would start to basically die very rapidly. It's almost like a patient in the hospital if his heart's quit. You haven't got very long. You got to do something. You got to get that heart pumping again, or the system's going to die. And that's the way with this, with a freeze of the system, financial system. If it's left unchecked for too long, maybe a month or two would go by, what would happen is all these companies and stuff that couldn't make payroll or employ everything would just shut down and stop. And then the people would go insane. Not long thereafter. So this is serious business if they let it drop 40%. My personal opinion is I don't think they're going to let it drop 40% to freeze. I don't think they're going to let it go that far. I think they're going to step in someplace. I don't know. Probably with a Dow maybe above 26,000. They're probably going to step in. They're probably going to have logical heads, cooler heads will probably prevail and say, hey, you know what? We're trying to fight this inflation, but we're destroying the system. So we got to be more moderate. I think that's what'll happen, at a certain point. Right now, their bluff is being called. All this fighting inflation business that they're talking about, the markets are calling their bluff. And I don't think they got the fortitude to let it drop 40% where it would freeze. This is just my opinion. But if they do, I've told you what to expect, and that would be the most scary event for them and for us out here too. It would be scary if they let the system freeze, but for them it would be a total panic. Anyway, the system is spinning out of control, starting to spin out of control. We're in the deflationary spike event, which I said probably not going to last real long. It's a great time to get out of the dollar during the deflationary spike event if you can get the commodities and things that you desire, if you can still get them, which you can right now, because this thing might intensify rather rapidly, and you might find that all of a sudden, when it snaps the other way, that gold and silver might be something that you can't obtain. During this deflationary spike event, when it reached down near the bottom, the rich have been waiting for this to buy it all up themselves. So when I'm speaking about not being able to get what you want, I'm talking mostly about gold and silver, the real physical metal. On the other side of this, when this thing flips the other way and goes back into inflation again, and they start to print again, this is the moonshot for gold, silver, and cryptos. I know it's hard to believe this would be a moonshot for cryptos too, but crypto's probably going to be at its lowest ebb in ages when this whole thing turns and goes in the opposite direction. And it's going to be cryptos, gold and silver to the moon. I've often said this in my shows, guys, and you've heard me say this way back into the past, that the gold and silver is going to go first, the physical. It's going to disappear, and they're not going to be able to buy it. And there's going to be still so much liquidity floating around in the system, chasing after something that's not depreciating, that it's going to then pour into cryptos. Only for the reason that they can't obtain real physical metal. And they're not going to want the paper short contracts, because those are connected to the dollar, which is failing at a certain point, So anyway, talked enough. Let's take a look at these markets today and take a look at the machine spinning and the wheels flying off of it right now. Let's start the charts right here. Silver price today, it's dropping, but I'm going to tell you guys what. There's a floor under this. And the floor is mining production cost. And the fact that they ain't going to have any mining supply if they go too much below mining production cost, because the mines they can't produce it for these prices. And so this deflation, deflating economy, the deflation, I've often spoke about this before in the past too, is what's going to lead to the hyperinflation. This is the trigger. This is the trigger, is this deflationary spike event. We were meandering toward hyperinflation anyway. But by the Fed doing this, by them fighting inflation, they are going to increase the speed that we head toward hyperinflation exponentially. In other words, they're going to make it come much faster because this can act as a trigger, an unbelievably powerful trigger to spin us off toward inflation in the opposite direction once this deflationary event ends. An awful lot of people that play this right are going to make an awful lot of money if they play it right, if they're successful. But ultimately, as the system starts to really unravel, you know, one of probably your most important thing you're going to have is your food and water. You know, because this is going to get really crazy in the end when the hyperinflation hits out there, you know, and it's going to get really crazy. Think Venezuela when they're in the worst parts of their hyperinflation. You know, rolling blackouts that might last for days, uncertainty amongst the people, lack of food and water. They say the people in Venezuela lost an awful lot of weight. And what we're looking at is here in North America, all over the world actually, because we're into a worldwide hyperinflation. If you've got a few extra pounds, I've been saying this for a while, embrace that. Because that might help you get through, because it is stored energy. It's like you're carrying food on you, you know. It's pure fat. And fat is stored energy. It's like having it's like butter, you know. It's very similar to butter, you know, and it's like 3,500 calories per pound, I think it is. Yeah, 3,500 calories of stored energy per pound of fat. And your body can actually use that if you are, if you don't have enough food to go around. Maybe you just got just enough food where you have to ration it. It can get you through an awful long period of time. You know, some of these people who are extremely morbidly obese and stuff, well, heck, you know, they can last 6 months or a year worth of food they're carrying. I mean, I'm just talking science here. This is just science. Because that's your body's way of storing away food for a rainy day. Like you store away a bank account, you know? And so, yeah, we've lived the posh lifestyle for... Anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit. We have lived the posh lifestyle here in North America and all over the world on a credit binge for 40 years now. And it's been a good run, guys. It's been a good run, you know. 40 years of a quiet, peaceful world, or mostly peaceful. It was a good run. Well, that credit binge, you know. Borrowing from the future to pay for the now. But, you know, the time of reckoning is hitting because it's all run from a financial Ponzi scheme. And all Ponzi schemes come to an end, you know, and this one's coming to an end rather rapidly here. And during this transition period to a new monetary system of some sort or another is going to be very rough. And so the younger generation that's been spoiled by this 40-year credit binge, they're going to get unspoiled in a very rapid fashion, you know, if they're successful making it through this thing. This is going to be rough, and we're all in for it, in other words. Silver's down 83 cents today so far at 21.08. We're looking at cryptos today. We're looking at the price, just basically the bottom's dropping out on this. 970 billions and a Bitcoin price of 23,678. Now, Bitcoin does have a floor. It's got several floors, but they're down there quite a ways. I'm not even going to tell, it'd be depressing for me to tell you guys how far down the absolute floor is underneath Bitcoin, you know. It does have a very strong floor under it. I'm not going to say the price, make you guys feel bad. Tell you guys the lowest, where the lowest floor is. for cryptos, you know. Anyway, you crypto guys, it make you feel bad. But you know, the floor, I tell you, the floor underneath this is the price of mining production costs right now, which has increased exponentially because of the price of fuel going up. Okay? But I've been telling you guys for a long time that silver, you know, is a place to be, the best, safest place to be in this storm. And I think people are going to find that out, that it's a real safe haven asset. Silver is probably my favorite of them all, you know. But, you know, cryptocurrencies, don't despair, because they will come back after this, and they're probably going to come back in a huge way. So you got crypto guys out there. Take a look at the Dow today. Refresh the page. Down 611. Now, we might have up days in this, and we will. I could say for sure we will have up days. But the problem is we're not going to have good up days until the Fed's like a dark cloud raining over top of us on these markets with their policy. And until they change that policy, this thing's going to remain bearish. And I've been saying this and saying this. And it's going to continue to drop. And I think they're going to step in around 26,000. That's what I think. Somewhere around 26,000. Just before, before the 40% drop and they get the credit freeze. I think they're going to step in ahead of it. But I can't be sure of that. But we're down 611 points today at 30,777. So I think that's about a 16.5% drop, somewhere around there, 16% maybe, drop in the markets from our peak. You see, we're still over 30,000, you know. You know, they're going to get really antsy, the Fed is when it drops down below 30,000. That's when they're going to start to get a little bit like, are we doing the right thing? Questioning themselves. No, you're not doing the right thing. No. You can extend this out a lot further if you just continue to inflate, but don't inflate too fast. If you support the markets and support the system, instead of withdrawing support, and actually withdrawing liquidity from the system. In other words, a small quantitative easing program. You know, small. Doesn't have to be big. Go back to a small quantitative easing program. Go back to bond purchases. Quit with this quantitative tightening. Quit with raising interest rates and just set a set level with interest rates and say we're going to stay here. Then you can extend this out for a longer way. You can make it go further. In other words, kick the can a lot further down the road and buy us some time. But what they're doing is crashing this by these tight monetary policies. They're bringing it in faster, much faster. In the next year kind of fast, rather than extending it out 2 or 3. Heck, they might be able to squeeze out 5 years if they did the right things right now, instead of bringing the whole system down. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Crude oil, 119. Even crude oil's feeling the pinch today, down $1.02. But this isn't how you bring the price of oil and gas down. It's not how you do it, by destroying the system. That's not how you fight inflation, by destroying the system. Really, ultimately, in a credit-based system like this, you have to keep extending it. There is no going back. There is no fighting inflation. Inflation wins in the end in a Ponzi-based, credit-based system, you know. It has to. Move index today, and you can see her starting to shoot up. 114. Well, I expect the move index is going to start to make a moonshot. This will move them. This is your credit markets. And like I say, you know, credit markets freeze at 40% down. You know, I mean, that's just an estimate on my part. But I think it's a rather good estimate. Let's take a look at bonds and rates. We're seeing yields shoot up higher today. 3.29 on the 10-year, 3.32 on the 30-year. Boom! There they go. Now, this is a really big signal. If these yields, especially on the 10-year, start to shoot up really fast, and say it goes up to, that means the system is breaking apart. You know, and 13 basis points, 13.4 basis points today on the 10-year is a big move to the upside. Dollar index 104.85, and of course we're going to have a strong dollar index. You know, thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. Don't forget, you can join up with Patreon. I'll put a link in the description. It's $1 per month, like $12 a year. Just produced a show there yesterday. I cover the news that's going on in the world in a podcast that lasts about 30 minutes. I do about probably about 4 to 8 shows a month on there, and it's $1 a month, and it helps support the channel. And I really appreciate you guys joining up over there. Thank you very much, because it helps support my channel. And we'll catch you guys in the very next show. Bye-bye.